So, Lawrence Vexler, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for taking time
Thank
out
you.
of your schedule to be on Media Hub. I know you have a lot of insight for our viewers. So, I just want to say thank you. But before we even start that, to have our viewers know who you are and a little bit about you, we came up with these icebreaker questions. It's almost kind of like a quick, off the cuff answers. They're usually one or two words, all right? But we're going to have fun with it, okay?
Okay.
All right, there's no
Ready?
right or wrong answers, obviously, either. But here we go.
Quick takes.
Number one, first question. What's your biggest pet peeve in a bad audio mix?
The fact that it's bad.
What makes it bad for you?
You can't hear the dialogue.
Can't hear the dialogue. Okay, good one. All right, next. Favorite moment from a live broadcast feed that you've worked on?
When a producer director says, "Great sound."
Great sound. Do you have, I mean, and just what, I've known you what, man, over 20, 25 years easy.
Yeah.
But between those, in that time, do you have a favorite one that you've worked on, live broadcast feed that you've worked on? Is there one that really sticks out to you? Like, this is one I really love.
Going back, there was a few shows, early 2000s. I don't know if you remember Beat the Clock.
Oh, yeah.
That was
definitely.
a challenge. That was a challenging show that was fun. There was Live at the Hard Rock for MTV. We did 3 seasons of that. So it was a lot of bands in the early 2000s that were at the time up and coming that are now very well
Yep.
established and great bands.
Oh, my God.
Train, Maroon 5, Joss
Evanescence.
Stone,
Yes.
Evanescence. Yeah, all
Dude,
of that.
that was-
Loved doing that show.
To this day, that's probably one of my favorite, and I've done a lot of music. That's probably one of my favorite,
Yeah.
my favorite shows I've ever worked on as far as music, by far. We had a lot of fun
Yeah.
doing it. That was a great gig. All right, here's the next one. What's your secret weapon in post that saves you every time?
Secret weapon in post that saves me every time. I would have to say it's a little trick that I use in making the dialogue pop above the music and the effects without pushing the fader up, and it's just a little EQ trick. Basically, what I do. Do you want me to explain it?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you want to give your secrets out, but I would love if you explained what it was. Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so basically, the human voice, depending on averages between about 800 hertz and let's say 4 kilohertz. Some voices will go higher, some voices will go lower. So what I do is a gentle curve from that 800 to about 4K up, only maybe 3 dB. But what I'll do with the music, instead of dipping the music down, I'll take the same frequency range and dip that down 3 dB. Now I've created a hole that's now 6 dB difference without drastically changing the sonic effect of the music.
That's pretty
That's
cool.
just one of the tricks. I have a couple of others, but that one, that's kind of my go-to when it's like, if the music's a little too guitar hi-hat heavy, and it gets in the way of the dialogue, I'll just a little bit of EQ, and just that little bit does the trick.
Dude, that is a huge golden nugget you just shared with everybody. That was awesome. I mean, it sounds
Feel
good
free
to
to
me.
use
I'm
it.
not an audio guy, but yeah, for sure. It sounds great. I love it. All right. Do you listen to podcasts or are you burnt out with audio?
I do not listen to podcasts. I listen to a lot of audiobooks. I'm never burnt out with audio.
Okay. All right. Good. What's harder, hitting a cue live or fixing a bad recording in post?
Fixing a bad recording in post. It just depends on how bad the recording was.
What would you say is one of the worst audio recordings you received that you had to fix?
Off the top of my head, it was a commercial for a statewide utility. I'm not going to say which one.
Yeah, don't make, no names. Yeah.
The ad agency came into me, and it was a dialogue between 2 characters in the commercial, and it was meant as a radio commercial. They did not record it at my studio. They each recorded at their home studios. So the female character had a lot of, it was very thin and almost sounded like it had a hum or some type of a noise to it. And the male character went ahead and did his own editing and added his own reverb, and it was very deep. So I'm
Right.
supposed to make these two sounds sound like they're just talking back and forth in the same room. Also, nobody timed, and they were doing it in English and Spanish. Nobody timed it out. So, by the time I finished the editing and it sound, and it, I could get, the kind of balance and it sounds good, a 30-second commercial was running 36 seconds. So I'm
Oh,
having to turn around to the
yeah.
representative from the ad agency and go, okay, what are we going to cut? I can try and schmooze, not schmooze, but
Right.
just tweak a few things here and there. But we're going to have to cut something.
Yeah, of
And
course. You got six
Spanish,
seconds over.
right? And Spanish is also even longer than that because it's 20% longer than English.
Man,
So,
I never even thought about that, about when you go into different languages, that does make it long. So is there an average number just for so I know this as well? When you
what?
do an SAP, it's called an SAP channel, right? If you do, is that what do you call it?
Yeah, well, if you're doing a broadcast, they'll do it in, an SAP channel. But
Okay.
but when I'm doing a radio commercial or TV commercial, and I've got, I'm supposed to do it in English and Spanish.
Yeah.
One, it's usually the Spanish people will come in. If you have somebody who is a Spanish speaker, they will know which words that, they don't necessarily do a direct translation from English to Spanish. They know, oh, I can use this word, which will shorten it up. So
Oh,
30 seconds is 30 seconds. Generally speaking, the Spanish language is about 20% longer than English.
yeah.
So, a lot of the Spanish talent that I've worked with over the years have also been in broadcast, and they're also excellent
Yeah.
at kind of self-editing, so to speak, or having a
Wow.
script in front of them going, okay, I can change it and say it this way. They'll speed up
Hmm.
their pace a little bit. I've even had some Spanish talent where I'll give them the English in one ear, themselves in the other ear. So they have the English coming in, the script in front of them, both languages, and zim, zoom out the mouth.
Dude,
They're
that
just
is,
doing
let
it
me tell you
live
something.
like that.
That is such a talent. I know we're going off the icebreaker question, but I remember the first time I worked with it was for Univision as well,
Hmm.
where the talent, they fed they fed her all the lines through her IFB, and she literally was just repeating everything without
Yeah.
a teleprompter or anything. That's the way. I've only seen that one time in 34 years, 35 years that I've been in the industry. One time.
Oh, I've
Not
I've
That's a
used that.
lost. Really?
I've
It,
had that quite a bit in the studio because we're doing, especially like I've done a lot of, corporate videos, training videos.
yeah.
So, those can be 4 or 5 minutes long,
Mm-hmm.
and studio time is studio time. It costs money. So, a good talent will basically do the same thing. And it's people that also do a lot of corporate convention work as on-stage talent. It's basically an ear prompter. They have
Yeah.
one language, they either have a language coming in, they're spitting out exactly what they're hearing, or they got one
Yeah.
language coming in, they're spitting out something else in a different language.
Yeah. Dude, such
It's
such a
amazing to
talent.
watch.
Yeah,
Yeah, it is.
you're right. It is amazing to watch. Okay, back to the icebreaker questions. Here we go. The next
Okay.
one. Favorite plugin you can't live without?
Uh, I have a BF3A compressor
Okay. All
that's
right.
I use on my master almost every time. Very light compression. You really don't hear it working, when I just dial it correctly, but it saves me every single time.
Tell me which is the worst case scenario as far as sound. Is it a bad mic or a bad room?
Ooh.
Ooh, I stumped you.
Oh yeah, because both can be bad. I mean, bad mic as far as placement or as far as the mic is failing. If the mic is failing, that's pretty bad.
Okay.
Um, Generally speaking, if you have a wide shot of a room and you see that it's a hard surface room like a kitchen,
Yeah.
and if it sounds like a kitchen, it's acceptable. It's the psychoacoustics of what you
Yeah.
see is what you hear. So that I think is a little bit more acceptable than the crackling noise if a mic is starting to fail.
Okay. All right. Okay. So now that we got the icebreaker questions out of the way, I want to start getting into these questions that I sent to you. But everybody knows. I want everybody to know that you don't only do post, but you do live broadcast, and that's where I met you. And we've
Hmm.
worked on many, many different types of broadcast
Yep.
events throughout the years, right? So I know what your day. I actually don't know. I just know you guys are always. There's always a lot of audio guys moving around, doing stuff, right? A lot of times you're the A1, so you're in the truck. But I want you to go over
Right.
just a typical day of what it looks like for a major televised event. How does your day start? And just if you could just run through it real quick on what it takes to even to get from your pre-pro all the way to live.
Okay. Um, Honestly, my day starts, I would like my day to start 2 or 3 days before the actual event, before I actually show up. I want my tech book, production book. I want all of the information that I can get my hands on. How many talent we have, what are their names, what are their locations going to be within the venue. And I basically translate all of that into my paperwork that I print out and then hand to my A2s. My A2s have to be my eyes, ears, and brain outside of the TV truck because I literally just can't leave. If I'm outside of the TV truck trying to fix a problem, it's a big problem. So I need them to do all of that. So that, I start off. So hopefully, if everything's working well, we show up, the truck's powered, it's cooled down, we can start work right away. Hand the paperwork to the guys, say, let's go over it. Got any questions, any concerns? Is there anything I can do to make it easier? And we go over that. Then I let them loose. I go into the truck. It depends if it's a truck that I've been on before. Do I have a previous show saved that I can kind of use that as my start? Or am I just give me two defaults in the communication system and the console and I build from there? And, if it's a truck I haven't been on, I've got to learn it very quickly. So I have to look at the patch bay, have to look at the inputs and outputs of the console on the software, figure out, what I can do and, what are my capabilities, and then build everything quickly. So with the audio console, it's basically I'm taking in all of the microphones for dialogue, effects. I'm taking in music sources. I'm taking in EVS, video playback and then doing a mix, doing multiple mixes because I have to put it in everybody's ear. They may want
Yeah.
different mixes. The play-by-play guy may want a different mix than the analyst. So just I've got it kind of down to a science that works for me.
Yeah.
Each A1 is a little bit differently. Then I also have to build the communication system so that the director, the producer, they can talk to their talent, they can talk to the camera people, they can talk to everybody inside the truck and outside the truck and do it in a way that's comfortable for them.
That's all. Let me ask you this: your team, when you're the A1, do you get to? How often do you get to pick who your A2s are?
Rarely, rarely.
Is that good or bad?
Um, I would say it's bad. It depends on the size of the show and the show that I'm doing. If I'm doing like a one-off type of entertainment show, I will usually get to choose. The crewer may call me and say, "Hey, here's the A2s that are available. Who would you like?" Which is phenomenal.
Yeah.
If it's doing like your standard sports, sports events, NBA, NHL, the crews are pretty much standard, and so it's the guys have been doing it a while, so it's good from the standpoint that they're doing it a while, but I do not get to choose them. So some guys are a little bit more knowledgeable than others, a little bit more experienced than others. That situation I don't get to choose, but more of the bigger entertainment shows, like a Beat the Clock or some of those others, I would get to choose, who my A2s are. And there's a good group of A2s in the Central Florida area. I'm going to say Orlando and include Orlando, Tampa, that
Yeah.
I can easily pull from.
Explain about some of the stress that may come in. Especially if you have a bad truck, things like that. What are some of the things that you could run into?
Yeah, bad truck. And I don't want to, throw trucks under the bus,
Absolutely
but
not. Yeah.
trucks, literally, they are driven hard. You're taking 12 to $15 million worth of electronic equipment, putting it on wheels, and driving it through a hurricane. Because what are hurricane force winds? 70 miles an
Right.
hour plus.
Right. Right.
Day in and day out. It's bouncing down the road. It's going to break. at some point in time, every piece of equipment on there is going to break. Some may take them years to break, but so the biggest issue from that standpoint is, making sure, and hopefully you've got good truck engineers that know the truck and that can, that can get it fixed, or, there's either the fix or there's the workaround. So, equipment failure is, or equipment not working properly is a big issue to get through. If I have enough time, that, oh, this isn't working, we can go, great. It's the shortage of time. And quite often the production people, crewers are kind of in the middle of this. Time is money. When you're hiring a 20 to 30 person crew and a truck, it costs money. So they don't want any overtime.
Right.
So it's like, we're going to give you X amount of time from your call time to when we go on live to make it work.
Right.
So you got to make it work. It's,
Hmm.
that's just the way it
And
is.
what's the role of an A1 on a live TV truck?
Everything you hear on air is my responsibility. All the communication that you don't hear on air is my responsibility. So I have to make sure, because if you're a camera operator on quite a few of these broadcasts. If
Yep.
you can't hear your director, they're calling on me. Fix this. Camera
Absolutely.
5 can't hear can't hear
Yeah.
the director. You know,
Uh-huh.
so
Or
it's
sometimes I'm like, hey, I'm hearing the other truck. I'm not even tied into the
right.
right truck. Or yeah,
Right,
exactly.
exactly. So it's one of those, I have to be familiar with the communication system. I have to
Hmm.
be familiar with the signal flow to be able to take everything in and then turn around and kick it back out the way with the specifications that they're giving me. I don't make any hardcore decisions on a broadcast unless I'm asked. So, in the tech book, they say we're going to kick out 4 channels of transmission. Here's what we want on each channel. Or we're going to kick out 8 channels of transmission. Here's what we want on each channel. So it's up to me to make it work.
Yeah.
Um, so I really have to, like I said, walk into a truck, and if it's one that I haven't looked at before, I have to learn very quickly.
How often does it change what's needed from show to show? Is it very often, like what they expect, or does it depend on the
Uh,
size of the show?
It depends on the size of the show, and it also really kind of depends. Sports is kind of unique unto itself, and it'll change from sport to sport.
Okay.
So, I mean, with sports, you turn on a basketball game, a hockey game, baseball game, whether it's college or pro. What are the standards? You usually have 2 or 3 people up in the commentator's booth. Sometimes they'll turn around and be on camera. You'll usually have a reporter somewhere down, in the field area. They'll usually have a wireless microphone, a wireless IFB. You put in a hardwire backup. There's standards that, from one sport to the other, it's pretty much the same. Um, you'll change up the effects microphones depending from basketball to hockey. Things are different, but it kind of becomes a little bit of a formula. The difference is, especially like I don't do a lot of the home shows. I mainly do the visitor feeds. So the
Right.
difference is going to be the producer and the director, the way they want their show to look. They are trying to tell a story to their audience, and their audience is
Right.
usually going to be the home market. So they may have a particular style that I have to learn to adapt to very quickly. Producer may say, hit the music, if we're going out to break, hit the music. I'll start counting at 7, hit it at 5. Or if I want, they'll call for specific pieces of music. Oh, this is really dramatic. Everything that we do, whether it's post-production, broadcast, we're telling a story. We're hired to help a producer, director tell the story, whether it's in a film, a TV commercial, a cartoon, a sports broadcast. So I have to take, my direction from them. And when I have a different producer, director, 2, 3 times a week,
Yeah.
I really have to learn to put my own feelings and thoughts aside, give them what they want.
Yeah. Yeah. And audio, I mean, audio changes everything. The mood of everything is kind of like lighting. It tells the whole story just by the type of music that's there. It could change everything.
Oh
Okay,
yeah.
so coming from post
Hmm.
and doing live, mixing as well. How is mixing for post production different from mixing live?
You get to do things two, three, four times over if you're not happy with it, or if they're not happy with it.
Right.
Um, you know, again, doing live has helped me be better in post from a speed standpoint. Not that I'm rushing through anything, but a budget's a budget.
Yeah.
And when a client comes into the studio and they're saying, "Well, I'm doing this 30-second commercial, but it's going to be music heavy and sound effects heavy, but I've only got X amount of dollars," so it's like, okay, here's the amount of time I have to work on it. I
Right.
want to give them exactly what they want. They have to walk out happy. So, that's that's the bottom line is,
Yeah.
get the job done and make sure that my client is happy.
All right, Lawrence, here's my next question. How do you go about approaching balancing dialogue, music, and sound effects for final mix?
What does the client want? That's my approach.
Okay.
Going back to telling a story, whether it's an audio book, whether it's a hockey broadcast, whether it's a piece of music, it's how does the client want it to come across? Generally speaking, it's the dialogue that's going to tell the story. So you want your dialogue to sit on top. Music provides the emotional content
Hmm.
to it, and the effects help to enhance the reality of it, of what's going on. So, but there may be times where you want the music to push and get in there, and you may bring the dialogue back a little bit. Usually, though, I'll have the dialogue on top, effects just underneath that, and music kind of underneath that. But the music and the effects can, depending on what the project is, can be back and forth.
Staying on the subject of post sound, what
hmm
software or plugins are must have in post production?
Pro Tools is the de facto digital audio workstation for post production. There's plenty of others out there, um, but over the years, Pro Tools, Avid's Pro Tools has just become the industry standard. So you have to have that. There's a whole bunch of newer plugins that have come along. I've been doing this for 30 years. So I have the ones that I like, that I use, that I trust. I'm not opposed to trying new ones, but
Right.
that has to be on my time, not necessarily the client's time.
Okay. All right. Um, and I think you told me you transitioned the other way, right? You came from post to live to fill in the days when you were doing post
Right.
audio, right? I think that's what you told me.
Yeah.
Okay. So either way, from going from post to live or live to post, how would you recommend someone to transition to the other side, either from live to post or post to live?
Mm,
Let's ask you, is it
that's
hard to do, you think?
No, I don't want to say that it's hard to do. I'd say what you really need, especially well, on both in this industry, what we do is a combination of creative and technical.
Okay.
And I think you have to have a good background in the technical aspect of audio engineering to be able to do post, and especially to do live, because live, like you said, the show goes on live at this time. You've got to be ready, so you have to work quick. Um, to do the transition, I remember when I transitioned, I was lucky. I had some guys that were in the area that I would be their A2, and like doing some Magic games, and there wasn't any room on the court for me to sit, so I would go into the audio room in the truck, turn a milk crate upside down, sit next to him, and watch what he was doing. And when he had a break, he'd turn to me and say, "This is Michael Mantovani, by the way." Michael would say,
Great
"Okay, go
guy.
ahead, ask me questions. I got 30 seconds." So I would ask him
Yeah.
questions. And it was basically, I had the concept of mixing. It was what was different about being in a studio as opposed to being in a truck. So it was
Yeah.
nomenclature. Signal flow was, it's the same for both.
Right.
Um, but it's just the different atmospheres of going from a studio to a TV truck, especially in a truck. Well, it's the same for the studios that you have to build it. There isn't anybody else there to build it for you.
Right.
So, not to throw, TDs under the bus, but when a TD comes in, he sits down, writes on a piece of paper how he wants the monitor wall to look, and he hands it to an engineer who goes back and patches it. That doesn't happen in audio. In audio, I'm on my own. The truck
Yeah.
engineers, if I have an issue, are there for me, but they're not going to come back and do any of my own patching. That's totally up to me.
Okay. All right. I wanted to talk to you now about, we talked a little bit on the phone about this, but our industry is changing, whether it doesn't matter what field you're in. But with AI in our industry now, and just in the amount of 2 years that just passed, and how much it has progressed in just the 2 years. And I know in our industry, in the video side of things, I mean, even apps that we used prior and the way they are now, 2 years later, they have progressed so much better. Do you find that in audio as well? And I'm gonna tell you right now, you're probably gonna kill me right now, because I know you do VO and you have your guys and everything. But this is a true, honest story. Okay, true, honest story. And promise, don't kill me, don't be mad at me. But this is the way it is right now. And I'm wondering
Okay.
if it's also affecting your business on top, because you're running a business as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we got hired to do a pilot for a reality show, right? And in this pilot, the budget was limited because it was a pilot, right? And it was a first time thing. So the VO is what ran the whole story, everything, right? We didn't have the money in the budget we were going to bring in a person and everything like that. So we used Premiere CC, and in there is a new AI VO, right? And we've used them in the past, and we didn't really like them. I'm gonna be honest with you right now. There was a lot of other 2 years ago. There was a lot of apps out there that just did not work. The way they
Yep.
sound certain words, you had to type it out a certain way, or you had to do a couple of bit of spacing, blah blah blah. The inflectuation it didn't sound very good. You could literally tell that it was a digital AI voice, right? So we're like, you know what, let's just try it. So we tried this plugin and we did it, and Lawrence, it blew our minds. It
Okay.
blew our minds on how the way it read it didn't sound very digital. The way it put in inflections in, it blew our mind. And I just want to know, what is your take on AI now, and how is it affecting the audio industry, pros and cons?
I think AI is good from the development of technology within the business.
Okay.
AI, as they're using it to develop plugins that will help you move quicker, noise reduction. They're using AI a lot in noise reduction plugins to assess the sound to make the corrections.
Right.
I think, and again, my opinion, I think AI is not good on the creative side of it to replace a voiceover. And not that it can't do a voice, but they call it, artificial intelligence, not artificial emotions. And when, the human aspect, again, it goes back to, and this is kind of a philosophy of mine, is we're telling stories. We're using technology to tell the stories, whether it's television, film, radio, social media, music, CDs. The people that we admire, musicians that write their own music, authors that write books and they will narrate books. When they're telling the story, there's an emotion behind it.
Yeah.
Maybe one day artificial intelligence might be able to pick up on the emotion, but from what I've heard, what I've seen, it's not there yet. I was telling you earlier, I did a session last night. I had, it was 3.5 minute a pilot for for another animation. 9 characters, 8 voices. We managed to knock it out in about 4 hours, but the emotion, the change up. So when a director said, hey, can you make it sound a little bit more like this? You need to change up the dialect, and do this. And then these were also young, in their 20s and 30s actors, voice actors, and they brought the characters to life. There was emotion and thought and feeling that I just don't think you're going to get from from AI yet.
Yeah.
But why would we want to compromise the art of storytelling in these, so like I said, I think AI is great from help develop the technology in the storytelling, but
Hmm.
don't replace the artist in the storytelling. And
Very
the
fair.
artist could
Yeah.
be, could be the author. So, yeah, I don't, it has affected my business because people are using AI for voice. But, even if you're doing a 30-second commercial, or,
Hmm.
for radio or for television or for social media, to me, you want somebody who's going to believe in the product or the service that you're selling,
Hmm.
and you can hear that in their voice. Or even if you don't necessarily recognize it, it's like, wow, I mean, if you hear something or see something, that may grab you for the product or the service, it's probably because of the way it was put together and the human side of it. If it
Hmm.
was just, very artificial, um, yeah, kind of remember back in the late 80s and 90s when drum machines started becoming popular?
Oh yeah. Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
And it is just like, yeah, but I remember the bumper stickers. Drum machines have no souls because yeah, it may have been perfect,
Yeah.
but we don't necessarily want perfect. Perfect isn't what made you feel something for the song.
Right.
You know
Right.
that yes, did it save money from having to hire a 4 or 5 or 6 piece band for the club to hiring one guy who can press a button and go tick, 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 tick,
Yeah.
yeah. So from a budgetary standpoint, people will make those decisions, but it takes something away from the art. And so that's my thought on
Which
it.
no, absolutely. And I think you answered it very well. It just makes me ask a couple more questions because on a budgetary side, like you said, it does have pros and cons. So on making it faster, making it easier on your side of things, as far as the engineer, that is a big pro, right? But I understand
Yeah.
what you're saying about not, taking away the artist of it as far as VO and voice actors and things like that, especially like you said for these animations. And I see that, and it's bittersweet, man. It's bittersweet. But
Hmm.
how do you use it in your industry, in your line of work, in your studio, in your business? How are you using AI?
Honestly, I'm not really using it a whole lot.
Okay.
Like I said, there's certain plugins. If the plugin was developed using AI, that's pretty much my extent because I'm using the plugin, but I'm not. I'm not using AI to create scripts because I'm not a script writer. I'm the guy. My job is to record a great performance.
Okay.
So, they're
But not
not
even
going.
cleaning you. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to cut you off. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was going to
No,
say,
but
so
you,
you,
you
you don't even use one to clean up the audio. So there's an app. I'm not going to mention the app because they're not paying me to mention it. But there is an app out there that I am not even kidding you. The way it cleans up the audio like that,
I
and
don't use
in a
it.
matter of
Yeah, I don't use a
seconds.
specific app. There are a few plugins that I have that
Okay.
do noise reduction and help clean something that's got extra noise in it, and I use those plugins within Pro Tools.
Okay.
The bottom line is, as the engineer, I'm the one that has to make the final decision. It's walking that fine line of, did it clean up enough noise without leaving digital residue, so to speak, on the voice,
Right.
or has it left too much digital residue on the voice? So, yeah, it's one of those. It's the fine line. The purist in me says ADR, or go back and shoot it again, and this time, turn off the refrigerator in the other room. It's
Do
like I said, my job is to record a great performance. I can
yeah.
record a crappy performance just as well.
Right. So having that thought process, the way you just explained, right? Do
Mhm.
you see that as being a positive for you? Because for me, I even everybody in the office, I'm like, I embrace AI, especially if it helps us get to where we need to quicker. Because like you said, it's all about the money. It's all about staying within the budget. Yeah, right. Still keep the
Mhm.
creative, but at the same time, I think that we either have to embrace it or we're going to be left behind. What do you think about that? What's your thoughts on that?
I, I agree with you,
Okay.
but at the same time, and this also kind of comes from the years doing broadcast, bringing it back into post. Get it right the first time. So, and part of that get it right the first time is, if you're allowed to do it within your time frame, within the budget, choose the right microphone that you're going to use. Look at the where you're recording, how you're recording it, plan ahead. Um, you know, AI as a tool. Like I said, not talking about the AI replacing the artist, but AI from the technology standpoint within audio, from what I've seen so far, it's mainly being used to correct bad recordings.
Yes.
So if you don't have a bad recording, you don't necessarily need it. Now, if it can help you to get a better recording, absolutely. I'm not opposed to anything. But
Okay.
for what I do in the studio, there really aren't any. It's pretty simple, and this is the thing at the one of the philosophies I've developed at the from audio, at the beginning of the signal, it's analog. From my
Right.
mouth to a microphone, that's analog. At the end of a signal, it's analog. From a speaker, whether it's, a big speaker or headphones or an earbud, to your eardrum, that's analog. So there's no getting away from that.
Okay.
So it's
All right.
what you do to it in between that, you can mess it up pretty bad or you can capture it really well. So my attitude is capture it really well the first time so that you don't have to spend extra time, extra money in having to try and correct it.
Right. Okay. All right. So now, I mean, with all your background and your history in both sides of the field, right? What advice would you give to someone who wants to build a long-term career in audio?
Learn both the technical aspect of it and the artistry aspect of it, the creative aspect of it. Learning the technical will help you be better on the creative. Like I said, even just the simple things. Understand when you walk into a room, listen to the room without any equipment. What does it sound like? What might, can you do anything to correct if it's a bad sounding room acoustically? Is there anything you can do to correct it? This is another aspect, from an AI. One of one of the philosophies I learned a long time ago is fix acoustic problems acoustically, electronic problems electronically. Don't try to fix acoustic problems electronically. It doesn't work. It's called physics.
Okay.
Understand the science behind what you're doing from an artistic standpoint. Um, Years ago, the Recording Academy, the group that does the Grammys.
Yeah.
Their early name was the National Academy of Recording Arts and Sciences. I think there's the same thing from the television side,
Yes.
the television arts and sciences. It's a combination. So if you
Right.
want to get ahead, further in your career with a better understanding and faster, learn both. Don't
Okay.
just say, "Oh, I want to be, a great, director," and not understand how light, works from a physics standpoint, so that when you put up a lens with glass, you know and so you understand how the light is affecting through the lens. It's the
Correct.
same thing with audio. It's like choosing the right microphone. How is the sound in the room? How are you going to capture it? How are you going to change it? Yeah, there is a science behind it, and I think it's better for younger people coming up, learn the science as well as the art of it.
Oh, very good. Uh, got another question that you just, since you brought that up. Your go-to mics for, I'm going to give you a scenario. You tell me your go-to mic. All right?
Okay.
Go-to mic. Here we go. Sound effects in sports.
Sound effects in sports.
Yep. What mic would you use?
Um, Two mics. Off the top of my head, real quick, PCC 160, which is what
Okay.
we use a lot in hockey around the, it's a PZM style, but the technology's changed a little bit of it. But that's, just about every hockey arena, puts it around the ice on the glass.
Okay.
And then 416, Sennheiser 416 shotgun, industry
Okay.
standard.
All right. What mic was your go-to mic for VOs?
Oh, I don't have one. Because
Really?
a lot, I, let me say, I own about 100 microphones. So it
Wow.
really is going to depend on one, what the client wants, and two, what might work. If the client isn't overly picky, what might work best for the voice. So, for example, one of my go-tos, one of them is a Neumann U87. Just about all of the publishing houses that call me to do audiobooks, they want a Neumann U87. It's a very
Okay.
warm sounding mic. Um, but like I said, the session I did last night recording voiceovers for the animation,
Yeah.
I've got a pair of Shep's CMC 6 short shotgun mics.
Yep. Yep.
Um, Neumann U87 would be a waste on trying to do, especially for the way that these guys were recording it. I had two people in the ISO booth at one time dialoguing back and forth.
Right.
Not that the Neumann wouldn't sound good, but putting two of them up, in a smaller space, there'd be more bleed over. The shotguns, the short shotguns with their pickup pattern was better for what I was doing from that standpoint. And one of my best mics for doing general voice and general, vocals is an AKG 414.
Okay.
A brighter sounding mic than the U87, but on some voices, you may want that. So it kind of depends. Yeah, I have a group of them. I wouldn't say I have one.
Right. Okay. That's a very good answer. I would have thought you would have had like, boom, this is my go-to right here. Okay. No, that's good to know. Okay. What about for music? Whether not vocals, not for vocals, but for let's say a drum set or any other instrument, what would be your go-to mic for that? Or is that vary as well?
That's going to vary as well. I mean, one that's, I've been doing it for 30 years, so I have some newer mics,
Yeah.
but like most instrument mics, you know, SM57, you can use that thing as a hammer and it will put it in front of a guitar amp, put it on a snare drum. It'll still work. It'll still sound good. The AKG 414, again, it's a workhorse. I've used that as a stereo pair sitting above a drum set,
Okay.
works wonderfully. You can put that on a guitar amp as well. Um, those are just they've been around for a long time, and there's a reason, because
Yeah.
they'll just give you a good quality sound no matter what.
Cool, man. That's good to hear. So I want to show some love to what you do in your studio. You know what I mean? Let
Okay.
everybody know, like, at your studio. First of all, where can if somebody wants to get in touch with you, where and how do they get in touch with you? What's your website?
Website is lhvaudio.com.
Okay.
There's plenty of examples up there. You can see a client list. I've been doing it a long time, so the list, the list is long. Happy and satisfied clients. There's some examples of the work up there over the years. And there you can get to me. There's a contact page there with phone numbers, with emails. Lhvaudio.com is the way to get a hold of me.
Awesome. And what services do you have at your studio?
Voiceover recording, ADR recording, which is, not everybody, does ADR. It's mainly audio post-production, sound design work. Yes, I can do Foley work. Most of the projects in the last few years haven't required a lot of Foley, but I still, will pull that out when I get a chance to do it. I do some music recording work. mainly if it's tied to, specific post-production projects, but, for radio commercials, TV commercials, social media, commercials. I'd have to say, the clients that come into me will come in because they want the quality sound. Just having a microphone in the area, to pick up, it's not going to cut it for them. They want
Right.
a nice sounding, quiet room with good equipment. And a lot of the ADR work that I do, I've done, recently shows, Chicago PD. I just did one the other day for a film project over in the UK. Usually I'm getting a call because the actor, or like I said, for an audiobook, narrator is in the area. Somebody calls me and says, "Hey, can we book some studio time?" Um, so from that standpoint, it's because they're in the area. If they're in Chicago, there's a few studios in Chicago that you can call, for that. There aren't a lot of pure audio post houses in Orlando. There's quite a few music studios. It's doing just music work is not something that I wanted to do. I really want to focus in on post production. So that's
Okay.
pretty much what I do.
Well, great. Well, listen, Lawrence, I want to thank you. I don't want to take too much of your time, but I do
But
thank you for
thank you
taking
for
time
asking
out to
me.
join us today. Yeah, man, for sure. I knew you would have a lot of wisdom to share with our viewers. And again, I wish you all the best. So thank you for your
Thank you.
time.
Same to you. Thank you.